This is a brief presentation on pathos in literature. As we study the novel, in this case, Bless Me Ultima, the novel that is assigned, we want to make sure we understand that the driving force of a novel is development of character. There's plenty of space in the novel to develop character. And to develop an effective character, it's really important that a writer create successful pathetic situations. What is a pathetic situation? A pathetic situation is used in literature to create an emotional response from the reader. And that emotional response may be anger, may be bliss, grief. You may be happy with, you may have sympathy for a character, empathy. And that is a sure sign that if an invented person in the novel is allowing you to feel an emotion, that's a sure sign that the character is being developed effectively. So there are three parts to a pathetic situation. And the first one is a well-rounded character. We have to see a well-rounded character. That means that we need to see multiple dimensions of that character. The first one might be how the character sees himself or herself. In our case, our protagonist, Antonio, do we get opportunities to see how Antonio sees himself? Okay? In other words, his dreams are a good window into how he sees himself. It's also very effective in developing this aspect of character by the point of view. Is the point of view told from the first person? The second source of a dimension for a character would be how other characters in the novel see this character. For example, Lupito, we get to see Lupito mainly through the discussion of Narciso, who sees him as an old buddy who used to drink with him. We also get the information that he's come from the war, mainly ill, traumatized. But from the perspective of the other men who were trying to kill Lupito, we see him as a murderer. So there's another second dimension of character. A third dimension is how that character solves conflicts. So we have Antonio again, for example, and he is faced with the murder of Lupito in the dark at the river, and Lupito comes to him and says, "Bless me." How does he handle that conflict? How does Ultima handle the conflict of being considered a witch? So there's several ways, and these are three ways that a writer develops a multi-dimensional character. You should know this character. I've often said that you should know a character well enough to know what not to get them for their birthdays. The second part of a pathetic situation is then the situation that the writer will place this character in. And a situation may be a conflict to solve, a task, a function to attend, a person to meet. And that particular character with that personality placed in that situation is what's going to cause the feeling in the reader. If you change the situation or if you change the character, you will change the emotional response. How do we feel, for example, when Antonio, knowing as we know him, as a good kid, precocious kid, a kid who's still being raised by his mother, who is very thoughtful, who looks forward to education. And then Anaya takes this kid and places him where? In his first day of school. What happens in that situation? How do we feel as a result of that? That is an effective pathetic situation in Bless Mi Ultima. So then, in summary, you have this formula that character plus situation equals what's called a pathetic situation. And as a result of that, don't be surprised that if it's well done and it's a novel that has developed characters successfully, you might feel happy, you might feel sad. Some people may actually cry while reading. This is something that's really also interesting and that we discussed in class, and that is that a writer can increase the pathos, make you feel more sorry or less sorry for a character by manipulating the character and the situation. Here's a scenario where we have Juanito, who is 10 years old and afraid of the dark. He is embarrassed to tell anyone that he's afraid of the dark. And then as a writer, I'll take Juanito and I'll put him at a boys' camp where he must walk by himself at night to the camp outhouse. How are we going to feel as we witness and read that situation? Let's change the character. Instead of Juanito, let's go to Billy. He's also 10 years old. But he brags to his friends about how he's not afraid of anything. Right? Billy is at a boys' camp, same situation, must walk out at night, same situation, but because Billy is different, who are we going to feel more sympathy for? This is how a pathetic situation works. Now, as we study pathos, again, it's important to understand that the driving force of a novel is to create characters. And with good pathetic situations, I think that Anaya's novel will be very successful.